A city of light and scent night settles slowly over the Tigris. The river holds the last gold of the sunset, reflecting it in ribbons that tremble with the evening breeze. Across the water, the great city of Baghdad begins to glow. From the curved balconies of merchant houses, from the doorways of bustling shops, from the slender minarets that pierce the darkening sky, thousands of small flames awaken. Lanterns of brass and colored glass bloom like captured stars. Their warm halos drift across the streets and alleys, softening every stone and shadow. It is the 9th century, the heart of the Abbasid era, and Baghdad is at its most luminous. To travelers arriving by boat, the city appears as a constellation scattered across earth instead of sky. The round city, with its perfectly planned walls and radiating streets, was designed by Caliph al-Mansur to embody harmony and power. Yet what a visitor feels first is not power but wonder. The air itself seems perfumed. Cardamom and rosewater mingle with the more mysterious notes of ambergris and musk. You smell Baghdad before you truly see it. And tonight, as every night, the scent leads toward the great night. Markets, bazaars that will pulse with life until the small hours. The city's pulse. Baghdad in the 9th century is the beating heart of a world that stretches from the Atlantic to the Indus. It is a capital of scholars, poets, mathematicians, physicians, and traders. Knowledge flows here like the Tigris itself. Greek philosophy meets Indian numerals. Persian artistry mingles with Arab science. Yet after sunset, when the day's scholarly debates have quieted, another sort of learning begins. Ordinary people, merchants, sailors, housewives, wandering scholars, children clutching their parents' hands, teach and learn the art of the marketplace. The night markets awaken with a rhythm almost musical. First comes the sound of shutters lifting, wooden panels knocking lightly against walls, then the flick and hiss of oil lamps being lit. Lantern light spills onto cobblestones, painting them amber. Hawkers call greetings to neighbors as they arrange their wares. Somewhere a lute begins to sing, a slow, sweet melody that blends with the murmuring crowd. By the time the moon is high, every street in the Souk al-Lail, the night bazaar, has become a river of movement. Lamps and lanterns are the soul of these markets. Craftsmen in Baghdad compete to create the most delicate, most intricate vessels for light. Some are carved from thin brass sheets, their surfaces pierced with patterns of stars and crescents, so that the flame within scatters tiny shapes on nearby walls. Others are of colored glass imported from distant Egypt or even Venice, dyed in lapis blue or pomegranate red. When hundreds of such lanterns are hung overhead, they form an archway of shifting colors, a dreamlike canopy beneath which commerce and conversation unfold. Oil for these lamps is itself a thriving trade. Merchants import fine olive oil from Syria and Palestine, while local presses supply sesame and linseed oils. A visitor might pause at a stall where a young boy deftly trims the wick of a lantern, his fingers sure despite the heat. The light he tends is not merely practical. In a city where scholarship and art are revered, light carries a spiritual resonance. It is a symbol of knowledge, of divine guidance. Walking through the bazaar, one senses that these countless small flames mirror the intellectual fire for which Baghdad is famous. A world of spices, if light is the soul of the market. Spice is its heartbeat. The fragrances that drift through the night air are almost dizzying. Merchants display their treasures in open baskets and shallow brass trays, each a little island of color. Saffron threads, finer than hair and blazing orange, lie beside piles of green cardamom pods that gleam like polished jade. There are pyramids of cinnamon bark, curls of dark clove, heaps of black pepper that glisten with natural oils. Some spices have traveled thousands of miles to reach this city. Nutmeg from the Banda Islands, cassia from southern China, frankincense from the coasts of Arabia. To the people of Baghdad, spices are more than flavor. They are medicine, status, and poetry. Physicians trained in the great hospitals prescribe complex mixtures of herbs to cool fevers or strengthen the heart. Wealthy households scent their rooms with burning oud wood, a resinous perfume so prized that its smoke is itself a sign of prosperity. Poets compare a lover's breath to the fragrance of cardamom or the sweetness of clove. In the market, these associations mingle freely. A buyer may lean close to inhale the aroma of crushed saffron, while a spice seller recites a couplet by al-Mutanabi, proving that commerce and art are never far apart. Merchants and travelers. The faces you meet here tell the story of a world knit together by trade. There is a Persian trader in a long silk robe, his accent lilting as he bargains over a crate of dried limes. Next to him stands a sailor from the Malabar coast of India, the salt of the Indian Ocean still in his hair. A Greek physician examines jars of powdered myrrh, while a young woman from Damascus offers bolts of fine indigo cloth. Baghdad's night market is a living map of the known world, where languages cross and cultures intertwine. Yet for all its cosmopolitan variety, the bazaar is intimate. Merchants call customers by name. Children dart between stalls to deliver small parcels, and tea sellers circulate with brass kettles balanced on their hips, pouring steaming cups of sweet spiced brew. It is not unusual for a customer to linger for hours, bargaining, sharing news, or simply enjoying the spectacle. In this space, time stretches. The market is both a place of business and a stage for social life. Music and story. No description of Baghdad's night market would be complete without its music. Oud players sit on low stools, their fingers coaxing intricate melodies from pear-shaped instruments. Frame drums keep a gentle rhythm that seems to match the pace of the strolling crowd. Nearby, a storyteller gathers a circle of listeners. His voice rises and falls as he recounts a tale of Sinbad's voyages or the cleverness of a desert fox. Children lean forward, eyes wide, while adults smile at familiar twists in the narrative. In a culture that treasures the spoken word, these performances are more than entertainment. They are a way of preserving memory, passing wisdom from one generation to the next. Gentle night as midnight approaches, the air cools. A soft mist lifts from the Tigris, carrying the scent of water to mingle with spice and lamp smoke. Families make their final purchases. A bundle of herbs, a small jar of honey, a strip of dyed leather. Merchants begin to lower their lanterns, though many stalls will stay open until the call to dawn prayer. Somewhere, a lone flute plays a slow, haunting melody, echoing between the colonnades. Walking back toward the river, you glance once more at the glowing market. The lanterns blur in the distance, tiny suns suspended in darkness. Baghdad at night feels eternal, as though these streets will always hum with light and scent, with music and story. It is a city where knowledge is revered, where trade binds continents, where every evening becomes a festival of the senses. Gateways, crafts, and the flow of knowledge. The great round city of Baghdad does not sleep when the stars climb high. Past the glowing souks of lanterns and spice, narrow lanes wind toward the mighty gates that guard the capital. Each gate is a story in stone and bronze. Travelers who arrive after sunset find them still alive with movement, for Baghdad's nighttime rhythm invites commerce and conversation, even as the rest of the world drifts toward slumber. The city of four gates imagine approaching the Bab al-Kufa from the western desert, where caravans from Arabia bring dates and wool. The gate's massive wooden leaves gleam beneath a coat of hammered copper, catching stray light from the oil lamps above. Guards stand ready but relaxed. They have watched these roads for years and know the sound of approaching camels long before the animals emerge. To the north lies Bab al-Sham, the Syrian gate, where merchants from Damascus arrive with silks and fine glass. To the east, Bab al-Khorasan greets travelers from Persia and beyond, while Bab al-Basra in the south welcomes those who have sailed the Gulf. Each portal is more than a point of entry. It is a bridge to distant landscapes, deserts, mountains, seas, and each night those landscapes seem to breathe into the city. As traders pass through these gates, they bring more than goods. They carry songs, recipes, and dialects. They share the gossip of distant courts and the quiet rumors of rural villages. By the time a merchant reaches the central markets, his tale has become part of Baghdad's own unfolding narrative. The craft of copper and brass beyond the gates. The alleys of the metalworkers glow like a second constellation. Sparks leap as artisans hammer sheets of copper and brass into graceful shapes, water pitchers with narrow necks, wide trays etched with geometric patterns, and of course the famous lanterns that give the night market its name. The rhythm of their hammers forms a music of its own, a steady ringing cadence that echoes along the stone walls. Visitors often pause to watch a master craftsman trace a design onto a warm brass surface. With a burin, he carves interlaced vines and Kufic calligraphy so delicate that a single slip would mar the pattern. Apprentices, their faces bright with lamplight, hold their breath as they study each stroke. The pieces they produce are not merely utensils, they are art, carrying the elegance of Islamic geometry and the subtle influence of Persian motifs. A traveler might purchase a simple lamp or a magnificent ewer inlaid with silver, knowing that both will outlast generations. Textiles, the weaver's pride, turn another corner and the air changes. The tang of metal fades, replaced by the earthy scent of dyed wool and the faint sweetness of boiled silk. Here, under awnings of woven reed, Baghdad's weavers display their wonders. Rich carpets from Khorasan, fine linens from Egypt, and locally woven brocades shimmer under the lanterns. Some cloth is so light that a full bolt can pass through a ring, a marvel to those accustomed to heavier weaves. Dyers work beside shallow vats of indigo and madder, their hands stained with color. They speak of the art of fixing hue so that it will not fade in the harsh Mesopotamian sun. Buyers test the cloth with practiced fingers, feeling the tightness of the weave, the smoothness of the silk. In this world, fabric is currency and status. A single robe of deep crimson silk might cost as much as a small house. Yet simpler cottons allow ordinary citizens to join the dance of color. Waterways and the silent river, while the markets dazzle, the Tigris River continues its patient flow through the heart of the city. Lanterns reflect in its rippling surface, forming pathways of light. At night, the river is quieter than the streets, yet its importance cannot be overstated. Barges loaded with grain, wood, and spices drift under the watch of moonlit pilots. Ferrymen sing low songs to keep time with their oars, melodies older than the city itself. Scholars often compare the Tigris to a living artery, nourishing Baghdad with commerce and knowledge. Along its banks, warehouses store goods from India and Africa, while boatmen share tales of storms in the Gulf or strange birds seen near Basra. A visitor might sit on a low wall, feet dangling above the water, and listen to the hush of current against stone, a gentle counterpoint to the bustling souks. The House of Wisdom. Not far from the riverside stands one of the city's greatest treasures, Beit al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom. Though quieter at night, its influence seeps into every conversation in the markets. By day, scholars here translate the works of Aristotle, plot the movements of the stars, and experiment with medicinal herbs. By night, many of them stroll the bazaars, discussing geometry over cups of steaming tea or seeking rare ingredients for their studies. A physician might haggle for a rare root known to calm fevers. A mathematician could be found examining a set of polished stones to use as counting aids. Baghdad's intellectual life does not end with the setting sun. It simply migrates to these lantern-lit streets, where curiosity meets commerce. For the citizens, learning is not confined to classrooms, but woven into the rhythm of daily life. Perfume and apothecary stalls. Among the most enchanting corners of the night market are the perfume sellers. Here, glass bottles line wooden shelves, each filled with liquid gems, amber, rose, jasmine, sandalwood. The merchants are part scientist, part poet. They speak of base notes and top notes, of oils that warm the heart or cool the mind. Customers dab a drop on the wrist, inhale, and smile as memories bloom, of gardens after rain, of distant seas. Close by, apothecaries display collections of dried herbs, resins, and minerals. Labeled in neat Arabic script, each jar promises relief or vitality. There are powders for sleep, tonics for digestion, and rare resins said to sharpen the intellect. The scent of crushed mint mingles with camphor and sweet myrrh. The apothecary's booth is a meeting point of medicine and mystery, where science and tradition intertwine. Nighttime dining and the flavors of Baghdad as the evening deepens. Hunger draws people toward the food stalls. Here, cooks work over open braziers, turning skewers of spiced lamb until they drip with fragrant fat. Flatbreads puff on hot stones. Pots of lentil stew simmer beside heaps of fresh herbs. Vendors ladle steaming chickpeas into bowls, drizzle them with olive oil, and sprinkle them with coriander and lemon. Sweet makers tempt passers-by with trays of honey-soaked pastries and candied dates stuffed with almonds. Children stare wide-eyed at ropes of sesame halva, while travelers reach for cups of kahwa, an early form of coffee, brewed dark and strong, flavored with cardamom. Though the beverage is still a novelty, its stimulating warmth has begun to capture the city's imagination. To share food in the night market is to join a living tapestry of hospitality. Strangers offer tastes to one another, exchanging recipes along with laughter. The meal is not hurried. It unfolds like a quiet conversation, savoring both flavor and company. Music and quiet corners music threads through every alley. An oud player in a small courtyard plucks a tune that mingles with the rustle of palm fronds. Nearby, a singer's voice glides through a maqam, a classical Arabic mode, carrying notes that rise and fall like the river's own cadence. Couples sit beneath vine-draped trellises, listening, while older men tap time with carved canes. Not all corners of the night market are lively. Some are places of deliberate stillness, a secluded garden behind a perfumer's shop, a stone bench beside an ancient fig tree. Here, weary travelers find rest. The soft buzz of lantern light and the distant hum of commerce create a lullaby for those who pause. Baghdad at night offers both exuberance and serenity, allowing each visitor to choose the pace of experience. A meeting of worlds every evening in Baghdad is an exchange. A sailor from Zanzibar trades stories with a scholar of Greek philosophy. A Bedouin herdsman teaches a city child a desert song. A Sogdian merchant from Central Asia offers a taste of dried apricots to a woman who has never left the Tigris plain. In these encounters, the boundaries between nations blur. The night market becomes a true meeting of worlds, where goods, ideas, and friendships move freely. The effect is subtle but profound. Innovations carried along these human connections, new instruments, rare spices, medical knowledge, will ripple outward across continents. Centuries later, the memory of this Baghdad will shape cultures far beyond its walls. The lanterns at dawn. Eventually, the eastern horizon begins to pale. Merchants tidy their stalls, rolling bolts of cloth and covering jars of precious oils. The final cups of tea are poured, the last pieces of bread sold. One by one, lanterns are extinguished. Their glow lingers for a heartbeat on brass and stone before giving way to the first blush of daylight. Yet even as the lamps dim, the night's energy does not vanish. It has entered the city's very fabric. The copper trays and scented fabrics, the hearts of those who listen to music under the stars. The Tigris catches the first sunbeam, and Baghdad wakes to another day, ready to begin the cycle again when night returns. Homes, hospitality, and the people who made the nights shine. As the Tigris shimmers with the first glints of moonrise, life behind Baghdad's market facades deepens. To understand the city's lantern-lit wonder, one must step past the stalls and through the carved wooden doors of its homes and hidden courtyards. There, within the labyrinth of residential lanes, another rhythm unfolds, one of family, hospitality, and quiet artistry. Courtyards of coolness Baghdadi houses are marvels of climate and design. From the street, many appear modest, plain mud brick walls, a single wooden door, perhaps a small lattice window. Yet once you cross the threshold, the city reveals its secret gardens. Wide interior courtyards open to the night sky, their marble floors cool beneath bare feet. Date palms rise toward the stars, and small fountains send a gentle trickle of water into carved basins. Evening breezes wander through these spaces, carrying the distant music of the bazaars. Families gather on woven rugs, sipping mint tea while children chase fireflies. In wealthier homes, painted tiles from Persia glitter in the lamplight, depicting vines and geometric designs that mirror the patterns of the heavens. Servants move quietly, refilling cups, lighting additional lamps as the night deepens. The courtyard is both heart and lung of the house, a place of social life and a natural air conditioner. The hot days' stored heat escapes upward into the open sky, leaving a refreshing coolness that makes conversation linger late. The ritual of hospitality in Baghdad. Welcoming a guest is not merely polite, it is a sacred duty rooted in centuries of Arab tradition. A traveler, whether a wealthy scholar or a wandering minstrel, can expect a warm reception once invited inside. Hosts begin with ablution water, a brass ewer of cool, rose-scented water poured over the guest's hands. Then comes the offering of dates, soft, amber, and sweet, paired with a small bowl of almonds or pistachios. Soon a servant brings kahwa, the early form of coffee, brewed strong and fragrant with cardamom. The small cups have no handles, encouraging the guest to cradle the warmth. Conversation flows easily, often beginning with questions about the traveler's journey and the latest tidings from far-off lands. In a city of merchants and scholars, each visitor carries stories that might stretch to Samarkand or the distant Atlantic. Hospitality is not rushed. Hours pass beneath the rising moon as families share poetry, music, or lively debate. When at last the guest departs, a final blessing follows them into the quiet street. May your path be lit and your nights sweet. Women of the night market, the marketplace after dark is not solely the realm of men. Women, though subject to the customs of the time, play a vibrant role in Baghdad's nocturnal life. Many manage family businesses from behind wooden screens or latticework stalls, their voices carrying clear and confident as they negotiate prices. Some specialize in fine embroidery, delicate patterns of silver thread that catch lantern light like frost. Others sell medicinal herbs gathered from the countryside, knowledge passed from mother to daughter. Even more influential are the women who own small perfumeries or confection shops. Their artistry with scent and sweets earns them reputations across neighborhoods, drawing repeat customers who trust their recipes. Young girls accompany mothers and grandmothers to learn the craft, their laughter a bright counterpoint to the deep tones of oud music drifting from a nearby square. While social norms encourage modesty, the night market offers moments of independence. Here, women's economic power quietly shapes the city's prosperity and preserves traditions that would otherwise fade. Children and the moonlit streets, for Baghdad's children, evening is a magical time. Freed from the heat of day, they race along narrow alleys playing games that echo through the centuries. Some chase hoops of reed with sticks, others skip stones across irrigation channels that feed the city's lush gardens. Lantern light turns their games into a theater of moving shadows, and their voices rise like a flock of birds. Older youths linger at bookstalls, listening to traveling scholars recount tales from India or the distant West. A few apprentice themselves to merchants or craftsmen, learning to weigh spices or cut cloth. The night market is their classroom, filled with lessons in arithmetic, language, and the art of negotiation, skills that will guide them when they inherit family shops. Scholars in evening debate as stars scatter across the sky. Scholars leave their libraries for open-air discussions. You might find a circle of philosophers seated on woven mats near a quiet fountain, debating Aristotle's logic or the latest astronomical calculations from Persia. Candles flicker in brass holders as the thinkers gesture with deliberate grace, their voices a blend of Arabic, Greek, and Persian phrases. Passers-by pause to listen, for knowledge here is a communal affair. A spice seller may interject a question about the movement of the planets. A wandering poet might offer a verse that captures the theme in a single luminous line. Baghdad's intellectual atmosphere does not sleep, and the night market provides an informal academy where ideas mingle as freely as the scents of cinnamon and clove. Shadow puppetry and street theater entertainment thrives alongside scholarship. In a quiet square just beyond the busiest souks, a makeshift stage rises, 2 wooden poles draped with a white cloth. A lantern behind it throws silhouettes into sharp relief. The Khayal al-Zil, or shadow play master, begins his tale. Leather puppets dance across the screen. Warriors, clever animals, mischievous spirits. Children squeal in delight as the storyteller shifts voices, turning a squeak into a roar, a whisper into a thunderclap. Adults, too, are drawn into the drama, recognizing political satire or moral lessons hidden in the comedy. This art, carried from China along the Silk Road, has found a warm home in Baghdad's nights, proof of the city's openness to distant influences. Gardens beyond the walls. Not all evening wonders lie within the bustling streets. Beyond the city walls stretch gardens nourished by ingenious canals. Wealthy families maintain pleasure grounds where night-blooming jasmine releases perfume into the cool air. Musicians play gentle melodies as guests stroll beneath fruit trees. From these gardens, the view of Baghdad is breathtaking. Lanterns glitter like a spilled treasure across the plain, and the Tigris gleams silver in moonlight. Some gardens belong to scholars or poets who welcome friends for midnight gatherings. They recite verses celebrating the harmony of nature and learning, comparing the constellations overhead to the intricate patterns of Islamic calligraphy. Here, knowledge and beauty blend until the boundary between science and art disappears. The subtle role of faith. Although our focus is the market's earthly pleasures, faith quietly shapes the night. Minarets stand like guardians above the city, their silhouettes etched against the stars. The muezzin's call punctuates the evening, a melodic reminder of spiritual duty. After prayers, families often return to the market or linger in courtyards, believing that worldly enjoyment and devotion need not conflict. Mosques sometimes host late-night lectures on philosophy or medicine, where scholars interpret the works of Galen or explore the mathematical elegance of the Quran. For many Baghdadis, faith inspires a pursuit of knowledge rather than a retreat from it, making the night market not merely a place of trade, but a reflection of a harmonious worldview. Crafts. Hidden from daylight, certain trades thrive only after sunset. Glassmakers, for example, prefer the cooler night to stoke their furnaces. Their workshops glow like captured dawn as molten glass spins on iron rods. Visitors watch, mesmerized, as artisans shape delicate goblets or intricate mosque lamps. The pieces cool slowly, each a frozen moment of fire. Calligraphers, too, favor the calm of evening. By lantern light, they ink graceful letters on parchment, composing verses of poetry or copying sacred texts. The quiet allows for the intense concentration their art demands. Some sell small works directly to nighttime visitors who cherish the chance to take home a fragment of Baghdad's refined culture. A city of layers wander long enough, and you sense the city's many strata. There are the wealthy merchants whose tiled mansions gleam behind high walls, and the humble porters who sleep near the river with only a rolled mat for bedding. Musicians, scholars, sailors, artisans, each adds a thread to the immense tapestry, yet the night market binds them. Here the differences of rank soften under lantern light. A prince might pause to listen to a street poet. A fisherman might taste a delicacy usually reserved for nobles. The market is Baghdad's great equalizer, a place where every voice can mingle in the same warm air. Toward the next dawn, as the hour approaches when night will loosen its grip, the city seems to breathe together. From high rooftops, one can see the final gatherings, a family sharing the last of the sweet dates, a group of students debating a geometric proof, a lone oud player offering a final lament that floats across the sleeping gardens. Soon, the first call of the muezzin will drift over the rooftops, and the market will surrender to the soft light of morning. But the memory of the night, the sense of jasmine and cardamom, the glow of copper lanterns, the laughter and learning lingers in every stone and soul. Caravans, distant shores, and the world that fed the night. The lanterns of Baghdad never shine in isolation. Each tiny flame is a spark fed by journeys across deserts, oceans, and mountain passes. To walk through the night markets is to feel the pulse of a far larger world, one that stretches from the Atlantic's foam to the South China Sea. Part 4 of our journey follows those trade routes outward, tracing the goods, ideas, and people who carried their light back to the Abbasid capital. Caravans of the Silk Road before dusk even touches Baghdad's walls. Caravans are still arriving from the east. From Samarkand and Bukhara they come, a procession of camels swaying like ships upon a sand-colored sea. Their bells jingle softly, a music that announces wealth and hardship in equal measure. Drivers wear layers of wool and cotton to guard against the chill of mountain nights. Their faces are leathered by sun and sand. These merchants bring bolts of shimmering silk, dyed in the mineral blues of Central Asia and the crimson of cochineal, jade ornaments from the steppes, medicinal rhubarb from Tibet, and carved ivory chess sets travel alongside sacks of fragrant tea. Long before a single bundle reaches a Baghdad stall, its scent and rumor have preceded it. Children at the gates whisper of spices unknown and fabrics that shine like water. The Silk Road is more than commerce. Ideas ride these caravans, Buddhist sutras, Greek philosophy preserved in Syriac, Persian poetry that will inspire Baghdad's own writers. With every caravan, the night market grows a little wider, its conversations a little deeper. Ships of the Indian Ocean. If the Silk Road is the desert's artery, the Indian Ocean is a vast and breathing lung. Dhow captains from Oman steer their lateen sails toward Basra, where the Tigris will guide them north to Baghdad. Their holds carry black pepper from the Malabar coast, nutmeg from the Banda Islands, cinnamon from Ceylon, and pearls harvested in the warm Gulf waters. The sailors themselves bring more than cargo. From them come sea songs with rhythms that echo the slap of waves, tales of monsoon winds and coral reefs, and knowledge of distant ports where Chinese porcelain is stacked high like moonlit hills. Under Baghdad's lanterns, these mariners share stories with eager crowds, their weather-cracked hands gesturing as they speak of dolphins that guide ships and storms that vanish as suddenly as they arise. Some remain for weeks, marrying local women, opening small shops of their own. Their children grow up fluent in both Arabic and the sea's many tongues, a living testament to Baghdad's role as crossroads of water and land. African gold and the desert south-southwest across the Sahara. Camel caravans move like patient rivers of shadow. They carry bars of gold from the mines of West Africa, salt slabs from the deep desert, and ostrich feathers prized for their beauty. Merchants from the great city of Timbuktu or the oases of Niger join the northern routes, bringing music that blends drum and string in hypnotic polyrhythm. When these travelers reach Baghdad, they infuse the night with new textures. Goldsmiths learn to combine African gold with local silver, creating jewelry of unmatched luster. Storytellers recount myths of the great Niger River, tales of spirits who dwell in baobab trees, and legends of cities made of glass. Listeners lean closer, captivated by lands as distant and mysterious as the stars overhead. From the far west beyond the Mediterranean, ships from Al-Andalus and even Frankish ports find their way eastward. Spanish leather, soft, dyed in jewel tones, arrives rolled like scrolls. Olive oil, fine wine for those permitted to drink it, and delicate filigree work from Cordoba shimmer under Baghdad's lights. Travelers from these lands bring new instruments. The lute's ancestor, the oud, will one day inspire Europe's own music. Scholars carry manuscripts of Aristotle and Ptolemy, sparking debates that will echo through centuries. Each conversation in the night market becomes a small embassy of cultures, bridging the gap between Islamic civilization and the distant Latin West, northern winds, the steppe and Rus from. The colder north come traders of the Rus, early ancestors of the Slavs and Scandinavians, descending the great rivers to the Caspian Sea. They bring furs of sable and ermine, honey thick with the flavor of endless forests, and swords of fine steel. Their tall frames and fair hair draw curious glances, yet they barter with ease. Having traveled these routes for generations, Baghdadi merchants value their beeswax for candles, which burn longer and brighter than any oil lamp. At night, those candles mix their glow with the lanterns, making the bazaars blaze with an almost daylight brilliance. The Rus, in turn, carry home tales of a city where scholars read the heavens and spices perfume the air. Merchants' inns and caravanserais to house this global tide. Baghdad builds caravanserais, vast courtyard inns where merchants and their animals can rest. After sunset, these places hum with quiet energy. Lanterns hang from high arches, illuminating camels kneeling beside sacks of pepper and silk. Merchants recline on cushions, sipping tea and comparing notes on prices and politics. Here, languages tumble over one another, Persian beside Greek, Swahili beside Arabic. Deals are struck with gestures and smiles as often as with words. A single caravanserai might contain the world in miniature, a scholar copying Sanskrit texts, a sailor repairing a lateen sail, a cook stirring a pot that mingles Indian spices with Mesopotamian grains. The science of navigation trade depends on skill, and Baghdad becomes a center of navigation. Astrolabes, those elegant brass discs etched with the paths of stars, are sold in the night market to sailors and scholars alike. Makers demonstrate how a single instrument can chart a course across the Indian Ocean or calculate prayer times in any latitude. Under a dark, desert sky, a navigator points out the North Star to a cluster of eager children. He explains how its fixed position guides travelers through featureless sands. Such lessons feed the city's fascination with astronomy, inspiring both practical voyages and philosophical wonder. Flavors without borders, these trade routes transform Baghdad's cuisine. In the night market, a visitor might taste stews enriched with Chinese soy, Indian tamarind, or Persian pomegranates. Sweetmeats combine African honey with Mediterranean almonds. Vendors invent new dishes nightly. Chickpeas simmered with ginger, lamb spiced with cloves and cinnamon, rice perfumed with saffron that traveled thousands of miles. Cooks swap techniques like merchants swap coins. A recipe learned from a Malay sailor today might appear in a Baghdadi household tomorrow, adjusted to local tastes and celebrated in verse by a court poet the next week. A cosmopolitan soundscape. As these goods arrive, so do new rhythms. The night market rings with drums from Africa, bamboo flutes from India, and the reedy double pipes of Greece. Musicians experiment freely, blending scales and modes until something uniquely Baghdadi emerges, a music at once global and local. Scholarly and playful, dancers sometimes accompany them, their movements carrying echoes of faraway festivals. Spectators gather in widening circles, clapping to beats that traveled oceans and deserts before merging under Baghdad's lanterns. Knowledge on the move. Perhaps the greatest cargo is knowledge itself. Translations of Greek mathematics, Indian numerals, and Chinese medical treatises arrive alongside spices and gems. In the House of Wisdom, scholars debate these texts deep into the night, while in the markets, itinerant teachers share simplified lessons with anyone who will listen. A farmer from the outskirts might learn a new irrigation method brought by a Persian engineer. A physician hears of a Chinese herb that cures fever. The market becomes a living university, its curriculum written in 100 tongues. The market as mirror of the world standing at the center of the Souk al-Layl. One senses that Baghdad is not merely a city, but a mirror of the known earth. Each lantern reflects a distant shore, each spice tells of another climate, each accent hints at a horizon beyond sight. The night market is the Abbasid Empire's beating heart. Proof that curiosity and connection can outshine even the darkest desert night. As the hours deepen, merchants secure their goods and sailors drift back to their quarters, but the global hum lingers. When dawn finally brushes the Tigris with roselight, Baghdad wakes not as a solitary capital, but as the meeting place of worlds. Workers of the night, hidden professions, and the city's quiet guardians. When evening stretches across Baghdad and the lanterns flicker awake, thousands of unseen hands set the city in motion. Behind every glowing brass lamp and fragrant spice stall lies a network of trades and quiet labors. Their stories, often missed by travelers dazzled by music and color, reveal the true backbone of the Abbasid capital. Lantern keepers and oil. The night market owes its beauty to the steady work of lantern keepers. Before dusk, these specialists make their rounds with bundles of wicks, flasks of oil, and small brass funnels. They trim yesterday's charred ends, polish the pierced metal casings until they shine, and top each reservoir with a practiced pour of sesame or olive oil. Many are from families who have tended lamps for generations. They know which alley's wind will extinguish a flame first, which merchant prefers a softer glow to flatter his fabrics, which shrine demands extra brightness for a festival. Children often follow, apprentices who will one day inherit the delicate balance of economy and art. A single night's circuit might require 100 careful climbs up narrow ladders, each step ensuring the city's signature golden shimmer. Bakers of midnight bread long after most ovens cool. Baghdad's night bakers begin their craft. In small brick workshops the size of a modern kitchen, they knead dough by lamplight, folding in sesame seeds or anise for fragrance. Round flatbreads slide into clay tandoors, clinging to the hot walls until they puff and brown. The air in these bakeries is intoxicating, warm wheat mingled with wood smoke. Merchants heading home from the market pause to buy a stack, still hot enough to steam in the night air. Children sent on late errands cradle bread against their chests like a secret. By dawn, the last loaves will be gone, leaving only the faint memory of their scent on the breeze. Water carriers and the Tigris lifeline. While the river provides abundance, carrying that water through a sprawling city requires human effort. Sakis, water carriers, move steadily along lantern-lit alleys with goatskin bags slung across their backs. Bells tied to their shoulders jingle softly, announcing their arrival. They refill courtyard fountains, supply tea vendors, and deliver to homes where wells run shallow. Many know every twist of Baghdad's lanes and can find a hidden door in darkness. Some sing rhythmic chants to lighten their loads, turning labor into music. Without their quiet endurance, the night market's tea, perfumes, and cooling fountains would quickly falter. The night watch even, amid laughter and trade, safety must be kept. The shurta, Baghdad's watchmen, patrol with lanterns of their own, sturdy, practical rather than ornate. They carry short staffs and maintain a careful eye for thieves or fires sparked by careless braziers. Their presence is steady but not harsh. Children wave as they pass. Merchants greet them by name. On festival nights, the watch will guide crowds, extinguish lamps near wind-blown curtains, and sometimes settle disputes with a calm word. Their footsteps on the cobblestones form a subtle heartbeat beneath the market's music. Story singers and poets for hire wherever people gather. Storytellers thrive. Some are wandering poets who recite original verses for a few copper coins. Others are rawis, narrators who preserve epic histories. With gestures broad and voices trained for outdoor acoustics, they turn squares into theaters. One might recount the clever escapades of Juha, the beloved trickster, while another recites freshly minted praise for a generous merchant patron. Children cluster close, their eyes bright. Elders lean in to catch every rhyme. Listeners reward a particularly clever line with a chorus of Allah, a sound that ripples down the lane like applause. Physicians of the midnight hour illness does not honor daylight, and Baghdad's famed medical practitioners often keep late hours. Some maintain small stalls where they sell prepared remedies, powdered licorice for coughs, willow bark for fevers, ointments of myrrh and beeswax. Others roam the market, offering quick consultations by the glow of a portable lamp. Their knowledge reflects the city's global connections. Greek humoral theory mingles with Indian herbal lore and Persian surgical techniques. A traveler suffering from the desert's dry cough might leave with a soothing syrup scented faintly of cinnamon, an ancient recipe, refined through centuries of shared wisdom. The papermaker's quarter. A short walk from the busiest spice lanes lies a quieter marvel, the papermaker's district. The secret of true paper arrived from China only decades earlier, and Baghdad has turned it into an art. In dim workshops, artisans soak linen rags, beat the fibers to pulp, and scoop the slurry with fine mesh frames. Sheets dry on ropes above, glowing in lantern light like suspended moons. Calligraphers and scholars visit at night to inspect the latest batches, running fingers over textures that will soon carry poetry, contracts, and scientific treatises. Without these night shift artisans, the House of Wisdom's libraries would stand half empty. Perfumed evenings and the incense masters as the hour deepens. Incense masters step from shadowed doorways to refresh the air. Using long-handled censers, they waft curls of oud and frankincense through the streets. The smoke drifts upward in lazy spirals, mingling with lantern haze to form a soft veil. Perfume is not mere luxury. Baghdadis believe fragrant air calms the mind and pleases the angels. Some families hire incense masters to circle their courtyards before guests arrive, ensuring a welcome as warm as their hospitality. Even passers-by benefit, catching sudden notes of rose and sandalwood as they stroll. Quiet scholars at the edges not, every intellectual chooses the house of wisdom. Some prefer the margins, a dim corner of a caravanserai, a rooftop cooled by night winds. Here they copy manuscripts or compose commentary while the city murmurs below. Lantern light pools on their pages, revealing careful diagrams of stars, delicate maps of trade winds, or commentaries on Greek logic written in elegant Arabic script. A traveler might pass such a scholar and see only a solitary figure. Yet the ideas nurtured in these silent spaces will journey far, influencing physicians in Cairo, astronomers in Cordoba, and mathematicians in distant Europe. Entertainers of subtle skill Baghdad's night markets also shelter performers whose art relies on delicate control. Jugglers toss brass cups that glint like sparks. Acrobats form human pyramids to the beat of framed drums. Audiences gasp and clap, a circle of flickering shadows around the athletes' bodies. Some specialize in illusions, a flash of colored powders that releases sudden flame, a trick of mirrors that multiplies lantern light into a field of dancing stars. Their performances blend humor and wonder, embodying the city's appetite for both learning and delight. Healers of spirit and memory, among the merchants you may encounter Sufi mystics, traveling dervishes wrapped in plain wool. They offer gentle counsel rather than goods, listening to a stranger's worries and answering with parables or soft song. Their presence reminds revelers that the night can nourish the soul as well as the senses. Many pause to hear a whispered prayer or to join a short dhikr, a rhythmic remembrance of the divine. Lanterns sway overhead as voices rise in unison, creating a pocket of stillness amid the marketplace's tide. The river's midnight face far from the busiest streets, the Tigris takes on a different character. Boatmen rest their poles and let the current drift them beneath a canopy of stars. Reflections of the city shimmer across the black water, broken only by the glint of a fish or the soft arc of an oar. Lovers walk the riverbank, their quiet steps timed to the gentle lap of waves. Fishermen cast late nets, their lanterns bobbing like earthbound constellations. Occasionally, a poet sits alone, composing lines that compare the moonlit river to liquid silver flowing from paradise. Toward morning's first callas, the eastern horizon hints at violet. These hidden workers complete their final tasks. Bakers cool their ovens. Water carriers refill their skins for dawn. The watchmen make a last circuit, checking shutters and gates. Gradually, the market sound softens to a hush, a collective exhale before daybreak. When the muezzin's first notes drift over rooftops, the night's laborers step aside, allowing morning to claim the city. Yet their efforts remain, etched into every warm loaf, every fragrant courtyard, every lamp that burned steadily until the sun returned. Baghdad's lanterns of knowledge. Storytellers, scholars, and artists at night. When travelers describe Baghdad, they often speak of its glittering trade and rivers of spices. Yet those who linger after dusk know that the city's greatest treasures are not objects, but ideas. Beneath lantern glow, knowledge changes hands as surely as cinnamon and silk. Scholars, poets, and artists gather in courtyards, tea-houses, and bookstalls, keeping the city awake with imagination. In these quiet hours, Baghdad shines brightest as a lantern of the mind. The nightly bookstalls by day, scribes and bookbinders work in bustling workshops, copying manuscripts onto sheets of linen-based paper. By night, their work is displayed under soft lamps in stalls that stretch like small libraries along the market lanes. The air in these alleys smells faintly of ink, gum arabic, and parchment. Buyers run fingertips over embossed leather bindings or unroll scrolls to glimpse the neat dark script within. Some come seeking poetry of Al-Mutanabbi, others a manual of medicine, or perhaps a translation of Aristotle. For commoners who cannot afford entire volumes, there are readers for hire, A man with a trained voice will perch on a stool, reading aloud to small groups who pay a few copper coins each. The rhythm of his voice mingles with the distant beat of a drum, creating a soundscape of words and music interwoven. In this way, knowledge belongs not only to the wealthy, but to every night wanderer drawn toward the glow. Coffee. Before coffee, although true coffee as we know it would not reach Baghdad until centuries later, the city already had a tradition of stimulating night drinks. Vendors sold thick spiced brews of date syrup mixed with herbs, or infusions of saffron and honey designed to sharpen the mind. Students and poets gathered around these steaming cups, their conversations stretching well past midnight. In one tea house, a group debates whether the stars influence human fate. In another, young writers try out new verses, laughing when friends gently mock their awkward rhymes. These gatherings are the seedbed of ideas, informal yet fertile, casual yet world-changing. The calligraphers corner Baghdad cherished calligraphy not merely as writing but as sacred art. At night, in workshops illuminated by clusters of lamps, calligraphers bent over their wooden desks. Reed pens, cut at precise angles, moved with steady grace across parchment, shaping words into flowing rivers. Children and apprentices watched, mesmerized, as letters unfolded with a rhythm almost like music. The scripts, Kufic, Naskh, Thuluth, each carried their own personality, bold and square, delicate and cursive, grand and sweeping. The beauty of these letters transformed knowledge into visual delight. Sometimes, on special nights, calligraphers held demonstrations in the market. A sheet would be hung like a banner, and a master would inscribe verses of the Quran or lines of poetry before an admiring crowd. The lanterns cast long shadows, making the letters glow as if alive. Painters of miniatures, another lane of the market, revealed small paintings, miniatures designed for manuscripts. Under flickering lamps, colors gleamed, lapis blue from distant Afghanistan, vermilion red from India, gold leaf beaten until thinner than breath. Artists painted scenes of gardens, courtly feasts, or the adventures of heroes. Children pressed close to see the tiny details, a bird perched on a fountain edge, a musician's fingers strumming an oud, the faint pattern of a carpet inside a painted palace. These miniatures were not displayed in great galleries, but in modest stalls, yet they carried within them the grandeur of an entire civilization. Astronomy by lantern-light Baghdad's scholars studied the heavens with intensity, and at night their work came alive. On clear evenings, astronomers brought armillary spheres and astrolabes to rooftops or open courtyards. Students gathered as a master pointed toward constellations, explaining their motion, predicting eclipses, or calculating prayer times. Lanterns lit their instruments, but above them blazed a sky more luminous than any brass. Some believed studying the stars brought them closer to divine order. Others pursued astronomy for navigation, helping merchants and sailors cross oceans. In Baghdad's nights, science and faith intertwined seamlessly, each reinforcing the other. The House of Wisdom. After hours, the famed Bait al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, was not only a daytime institution. Certain scholars, obsessed with their work, remained long after sunset. Lanterns glowed in its courtyards, where translators compared Greek manuscripts with Persian texts, or where mathematicians argued over the properties of zero. Imagine walking past its high walls and hearing faint voices carried on the night wind, heated discussions of geometry, quiet recitations of poetry, the soft scrape of reed pens across fresh paper. Knowledge here was not confined by daylight. It spilled into the nocturnal rhythm of Baghdad, as relentless as the river. Poets and courtyards poetry was the lifeblood of Baghdad. After dinner, families gathered in courtyards cooled by night breezes, lanterns hung from branches of pomegranate trees. A guest might recite a ghazal, verses of love threaded with longing, or an ode praising the beauty of spring. Children memorized these lines like treasures, repeating them as they drifted to sleep. For Baghdadis, poetry was not lofty or distant. It was as intimate as bread, as essential as water. The night air itself seemed charged with verses, drifting from one courtyard to another like fragrance. Musicians of the hidden gardens beyond the crowded lanes lay hidden gardens where music unfolded more intimately. Oud players, flautists, and drummers sat in small circles while lanterns reflected in fountains. The melodies were delicate, rising and falling like the breeze among cypress branches. Guests reclined on carpets, sipping sweet syrups of mulberry or quince, their minds loosening into dreamlike states. Songs often mingled with improvisational poetry, voices weaving around the instruments in gentle improvisation. Here, art was not for spectacle but for communion, a shared space where sound dissolved boundaries between performer and listener. The Philosophers' Debates Baghdad's nights also nurtured philosophy. In tea houses and market corners, thinkers argued passionately, does the soul exist independent of the body? Can reason uncover truth without revelation? Is the universe eternal or created in time? These debates sometimes grew animated, voices rising above the hum of commerce. Yet there was laughter too and respect. Even when disagreements remained unresolved, the dialogue itself was valued as a form of wisdom. Lantern light reflected in their eyes as they spoke, symbols of human curiosity unending, tales of dream and wonder. No night in Baghdad was complete without wonder tales. Storytellers spun narratives of enchanted carpets, jinn imprisoned in bottles, or voyages to far-off islands. Though today we know them as part of the Arabian Nights, in the 9th century they were living, evolving performances. Crowds leaned close, hearts racing as heroes battled sea monsters or lovers reunited after impossible journeys. The storyteller's hands painted the air. His pauses stretched into silence before laughter or gasps broke out. Children clutched their parents, while adults remembered their own childhood nights of listening. These tales were not escapism alone. They taught cunning, patience, faith, and generosity. In Baghdad, imagination itself was a teacher. The lamps as symbols across all of this, science, art, philosophy, poetry, the lantern remained central. It was more than a source of light. For the people of Baghdad, the flame symbolized divine knowledge, guidance through darkness, the illumination of mind and soul. Each lamp in the night market was a small echo of the greater light of wisdom. And when hundreds glowed together, Baghdad became not just a city, but a cosmos of ideas, radiant in every corner, a night of endless learning as the hours deepened. Some families returned home with baskets of herbs and bread. Others lingered, listening to the last verses of poetry or bargaining for a miniature painting. Scholars closed their manuscripts, musicians packed their instruments, storytellers accepted final coins with a bow. Yet the memory of the night endured. The taste of spiced drink, the cadence of debate, the flicker of words painted by calligraphers, all wove into the dreams of those who slept. By morning, new ideas would rise with the sun, ready to shape medicine, art, philosophy, and trade. In this way, Baghdad's night was never truly over. It lived on in the minds it illuminated. Feasts of the midnight bazaar, flavors, kitchens, and culinary wonders. When the moon climbs high over Baghdad and the lanterns settle into a steady golden shimmer, a second wave of life awakens, the kitchens and food stalls of the night market. Merchants and travelers who have bargained for silk or debated astronomy now follow their noses toward the warm, inviting aromas that rise from every corner. Here, the art of cuisine becomes as much a spectacle as music or poetry, a festival of flavor under a canopy of stars. The market of aromas, the approach to the food quarter, is unmistakable. First comes the scent of roasting lamb, rich, smoky, touched with cumin. Then a swirl of fresh bread, mint, coriander, and the caramel sweetness of dates sizzling in butter. Lanterns flicker against copper pots, and steam curls upward like banners of invitation. Vendors call out dishes in melodious voices. Hot lentil stew, pomegranate chicken, saffron rice with almonds. Each shout is part advertisement, part song, blending with the lute music drifting from distant courtyards. Communal cauldrons and clay ovens. At the heart of the night feast are the great communal cauldrons, Huge brass pots, polished to mirror brightness, rest on low brick hearths fed by glowing coals. Inside, bubble lentils, chickpeas, and lamb shanks simmered with cinnamon and dried limes. The cooks, often families who have tended the same stall for generations, move with effortless coordination, ladling broth, adding handfuls of herbs, tasting, adjusting. Nearby, clay tandoors roar with heat. Bakers slap discs of dough against the inner walls, the bread puffing and blistering in seconds. A practiced flick of a hook brings each loaf out at the perfect moment, its surface kissed by flame and speckled with sesame. The warm loaves serve as both plate and utensil, ideal for scooping stews or wrapping skewered meats. The art of spices in Baghdad are not merely seasonings. They are stories of distant lands. Cardamom from India, cinnamon from Ceylon, pepper from Sumatra, saffron from Persia. Each carries the memory of a long caravan or a perilous sea voyage. Cooks treat these treasures with reverence. Saffron threads are crushed gently in small stone mortars before being stirred into rice, turning it a brilliant golden hue. Cloves are toasted lightly to release their oil, then ground into a fine powder that perfumes both savory dishes and desserts. Diners taste the world in every bite, a reminder of the city's place at the center of global exchange. Street foods and quick bites. For the hurried traveler or the child spending a precious copper, quick foods abound. Skewers of lamb and onion char over open flames, brushed with coriander-infused oil. Chickpea fritters, golden and crisp, are served in folded bread with a drizzle of sesame sauce. Vendors scoop warm rice pudding into small clay bowls, topping it with crushed pistachios and a dusting of rosewater sugar. A favorite treat is kushaf, dates stuffed with almonds and rolled in powdered sugar until they gleam like tiny moons. Children clutch them in sticky hands, savoring each bite as lantern light dances on their faces. Elegant suppers of the wealthy beyond the bustle of the street. The wealthy hold their own nocturnal feasts. In walled gardens cooled by fountains, musicians play while servants carry trays of delicacies. Roasted quail with pomegranate glaze, saffron rice layered with apricots, bowls of chilled melon. Guests recline on carpets beneath lanterns shaped like lotus flowers, conversing softly as stars wheel overhead. Wine is rare but not unknown, often imported from Christian vineyards in the Levant. More common are sherbets, fruit syrups mixed with cold water and scented with mint or basil. These private suppers mirror the market's abundance, but with an added elegance that reflects Baghdad's love of beauty. Healer's brews and nightly tonics food is inseparable from medicine in the Abbasid mind. Herbalists prepare warm drinks designed to soothe the stomach or calm the nerves after a long day. A popular tonic blends honey, ginger, and dried rose petals, believed to settle digestion and inspire pleasant dreams. Another mixes licorice root with mint to ease the throat of singers and storytellers who have worked the night. Patrons linger at these stalls not only for health but for conversation, sharing remedies and family recipes, turning healing into a social art. The market, as social table eating in Baghdad, is a communal act. Merchants share platters with travelers they met only hours earlier. Poets recite verses in exchange for a cup of spiced broth. Children run between groups, carrying pieces of bread or skewers to their parents. Arguments over philosophy pause when a new tray of food arrives. Bargaining gives way to shared appreciation of flavor. In these moments, class and origin blur. The taste of perfectly cooked lamb or a just-baked loaf belongs to everyone, uniting Persians, Arabs, Turks, Indians, and Greeks in a single human pleasure. Music between bites musicians roam the food lanes, weaving sound into the aroma-rich air. The gentle pluck of an oud accompanies the clatter of bowls. Drummers tap quiet rhythms that guide the market's heartbeat. Occasionally, a singer begins a maqam, a classical melody that rises like incense above the crowd. The combination of music and food creates a multi-sensory banquet. Listeners close their eyes, letting melody and flavor merge until the experience feels almost sacred. Lantern reflections in copper and steam everywhere the lanterns watch, Their light glints off copper cauldrons, reflects in bowls of saffron rice, shimmers through the steam rising from clay pots. Some vendors hang colored glass lamps that cast blue or green hues over their dishes, adding visual drama. For Baghdadis, the sight of a lantern-lit meal carries deeper meaning, nourishment illuminated, generosity made visible. The flame that lights the scholar's manuscript is the same flame that warms the traveler's stew, a reminder that knowledge and sustenance share a common fire. Sweet conclusions. Night feast ends without dessert. Vendors display trays of baklava layered with honey and nuts, bowls of candied citrus peel, and mounds of soft cheese drizzled with date syrup. Children beg for sesame sweets shaped like stars. Adults savor delicate rosewater pastries with cups of hot herbal tea. As people take their final bites, conversation slows. The market hum softens to a gentle murmur, the shared satisfaction of full bellies and contented hearts. Toward dawn's quiet as the horizon pales, cooks douse their fires. The scent of spices lingers in the cooling air, mingling with the first call to prayer. Patrons wrap remaining bread in cloth for morning meals. Vendors wipe copper pots, their faces glowing from both firelight and the quiet pride of work well done. The feast ends. But its memory will ripple through the day, fuel for scholars at their desks, merchants on the river, children at play. In Baghdad, food is never just sustenance. It is a celebration, a story, a connection that lights the night as surely as any lantern. The Tigris at night, bridges, boats, and the river's secret life. While Baghdad's markets glow like constellations on land, the Tigris flows alongside them like a dark ribbon of polished onyx. The river is never silent. It carries the murmur of commerce, the songs of sailors, and the whispered prayers of those who believe its current is blessed. To walk the banks after nightfall is to meet another face of the city, one that reflects moonlight, lantern light, and centuries of human connection. The river as heart and highway, the Abbasid founders chose Baghdad for this river. The Tigris offered trade routes to the Persian Gulf and fertile plains for agriculture, but it also gave the city a natural rhythm. By day, barges heavy with grain and timber move downstream. At night, the traffic slows, becoming almost meditative. From the markets, you can follow narrow lanes to the embankments, where stone steps descend to wooden piers. Lanterns mounted on tall poles illuminate the path with soft, quivering halos. Here, merchants wait for late deliveries. Fishermen mend their nets, and travelers arrive long after sunset, their boats gliding silently to shore. Bridges of light Baghdad's famous pontoon bridges stretch across the Tigris like floating necklaces. Built from linked boats lashed together and overlaid with planks, they sway gently with the current. Lanterns hang from ropes along their length, so that at night they appear as luminous causeways. Crossing one is an experience of motion and music, the creak of wood, the slap of water against hulls, the faint metallic clink of chains. Below, dark ripples catch the lantern glow, scattering it into shards of gold and silver. Lovers linger mid-span, merchants pause to watch moonlight chase the tide, and children lean over to drop pebbles, counting the time until each faint splash. Boatmen of the night. The river belongs to its boatmen, whose lives are measured by tides and stars. Their craft vary from narrow skiffs to broad cargo barges, each lit by a single swaying lamp. Some row quietly, carrying late-night passengers to distant quarters of the city. Others ferry goods, spice sacks, bolts of cloth, amphorae of oil, to merchants awaiting them on the opposite bank. Many boatmen sing to mark their strokes. Their melodies, low, repetitive, haunting, carry across the water like lullabies. A traveler leaning against a rail might hear a fragment of an old Mesopotamian tune, the lyrics worn smooth by centuries of river lore, fishermen and river markets. Even as the main bazaar winds down, a quieter market stirs along the water. Fishermen return with their catch, glistening carp, silver-scaled shad, delicate river prawns. They gut and clean fish by lantern light, selling to cooks who know the value of the freshest meat. Some fishermen work with trained cormorants, the sleek birds diving into black water and surfacing with wriggling prizes. Children watch, wide-eyed, as the birds return to their masters for a morsel of reward. The air smells of wet stone and river reeds, a cool contrast to the spice-laden scent of the city. Gardens. Beside the flow-wealthy households and charitable endowments maintain gardens along the Tigris. After sunset, these riverside havens fill with families seeking respite from the heat. Lanterns dangle from pomegranate and orange trees, casting rippling reflections onto the water. Guests sip chilled drinks infused with mint while listening to the soft rush of the current. Poets recite verses that compare the river to a path of molten silver, and musicians let their melodies drift downstream. The Tigris carries their notes far beyond the garden walls, blending human art with natural song. Bathhouses and moonlit pools. Not far from the embankments, public bathhouses remain open late into the night. The combination of warm steam and cool night air draws those who have spent long hours at market. Inside, domed ceilings echo with gentle conversations as bathers relax in scented waters of rose and sandalwood. Emerging afterward, refreshed and wrapped in light cotton towels, patrons often linger on terraces overlooking the river. There they sip sweet sherbet, watching moonlight glitter across the current and listening to distant drums from festival barges. Festival nights on the Tigris on special occasions. The birthday of a caliph, a major religious feast, or the arrival of an important caravan, the river itself becomes a grand stage. Wooden barges are decorated with colored lamps and embroidered banners. Musicians perform on decks, their sounds amplified by water and night air. Families line the banks, children clapping as illuminated boats glide past like moving constellations. Fireworks, though simpler than modern displays, send showers of sparks into the sky, mirrored perfectly in the dark water below. For a moment, the Tigris seems to carry both the heavens and the city in its embrace. Mystics and the river's spirit, to Sufi mystics, the Tigris is more than a highway. It is a living metaphor of the soul's journey. Some gather at secluded bends to chant and meditate, believing that the ceaseless current echoes the eternal remembrance of the divine. Travelers sometimes stumble upon these quiet assemblies, a circle of figures in plain wool robes, their voices rising and falling like the tide. Lanterns placed at the water's edge flicker in rhythm with the chants, so that light, sound, and flow merge into a single act of devotion. River legends and superstitions, old sailors tell stories of spirits that dwell beneath the surface. Jinn who can guide a boat to safety or lure it into whirlpools. Children grow up hearing of luminous fish that appear only when a great ruler is about to die, or of a hidden palace of glass at the river's bottom where moonlight never fades. While scholars may dismiss such tales, the fishermen and boatmen keep them alive. They claim to hear strange music on foggy nights, or to see lights beneath the water that no lantern could create. Whether true or not, these legends lend the Tigris a mystery that science cannot dispel. Commerce carried by the current beyond its beauty, the river remains a vital artery of commerce. Even after midnight, large barges laden with grain or timber drift south toward Basra, guided by pilots who read the stars as expertly as any astronomer. Messages and small packages travel by swift skiff, reaching distant neighborhoods faster than a rider on land. This ceaseless movement means that Baghdad never truly sleeps. A merchant may bargain in the market by day and still receive a shipment of pepper or silk under moonlight. The Tigris is a silent partner in every transaction, a living road that never closes. The dawn over water as night fades, the river transforms again. First comes a pale glow on the eastern horizon, then the slow bloom of color across rippling waves. Boatmen pause to watch the sky shift from indigo to rose. Gardeners extinguish their lanterns, their reflections dissolving into daylight. The call to prayer floats over the water, joined by the distant bells of water carriers beginning their morning rounds. The Tigris, which seemed a dark mystery hours earlier, now shines like molten copper. Yet those who walked its banks through the night carry the memory of its quiet magic, a reminder that Baghdad's soul flows as surely as this river. Crossroads of worlds. Baghdad's neighborhoods. After sunset, when night settles fully across the round city, Baghdad's great gates, Bab al-Kufa, Bab al-Basra, Bab al-Sham, Bab al-Khurasan, do not slam shut in silence. They remain porous to sound and scent. Drums from distant quarters echo through the walls, carrying hints of songs in many tongues. The caliphal capital of the Abbasids was never a single culture wearing different masks. It was an intricate weaving of peoples. Nowhere is this clearer than in the city's neighborhoods once the lamps are lit. A patchwork of quarters by the 9th century, Baghdad stretched far beyond the original round plan, spilling across both banks of the Tigris. Each district bore the imprint of those who settled there, Harbia, bustling with merchants from the Maghreb. Kark, the great marketplace quarter, alive with caravans and camel bells. Dar al-Raqiq, home to skilled artisans from Khurasan. Jewish, Christian, and Zoroastrian quarters, each with their own places of worship, bakeries, and night gatherings. After dusk, lanterns guide travelers down lanes scented with rosewater and sesame oil. Muezzins call the last prayer, but the streets remain vibrant as families step out for cool evening air. The Persian presence, from the very beginning, Persian administrators and scholars played a central role in Baghdad's life. In the evening, you might hear Farsi poetry recited in gardens along the Tigris, verses of Rumi's predecessors, or lines of Ferdowsi's epic tales. Tea houses, serving not the later European tea but hot infusions of herbs, fill with conversation about science and governance. Persian metalworkers keep small forges glowing late into the night, their hammering a steady counterpoint to the music of nearby oud players. Food stalls reveal Persian influence as well. Skewers of lamb marinated with dried lime, bowls of saffron-scented rice studded with barberries, sweet halva perfumed with cardamom. For travelers from Iran or Central Asia, Baghdad feels both familiar and thrillingly cosmopolitan. Greek echoes in the House of Wisdom, district near the famed Beit al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, lived the translators who brought Greek philosophy and medicine into Arabic. As lamps flicker in their courtyards, one hears animated debates. Aristotle's logic discussed beside Galen's medical texts, all in a blend of Greek, Syriac, and Arabic. Greek physicians keep small clinics open late, treating merchants weary from travel. Nearby, copyists continue their careful work by lamplight, the scratch of reed pens mingling with the fragrance of olive oil lamps and freshly ground ink. Students wander in with questions, their sandals raising soft dust. Indian merchants and spice secrets. From the Indian Ocean come ships laden with pepper, cinnamon, and indigo. Many Indian merchants make their homes in Baghdad's southern quarters, and at night, their warehouses glow with activity as cargo is inventoried by lantern light. They brew masala-like drinks of warm milk, honey, and spices to share with visiting traders. Musicians from Gujarat bring sitar-like instruments. Their lilting ragas blend with the deep rhythms of Arab drums. Children from different cultures dance together, their shadows stretching across whitewashed walls. The scent of black pepper and clove drifts toward the river, hinting at faraway ports. The Jewish quarter Baghdad's Jewish community, ancient and learned, keeps its own vibrant nightlife. Families stroll narrow lanes lit by brass oil lamps. Bakers slide fresh loaves into communal ovens long after sunset, so the bread will be warm for dawn prayers. In upper rooms, scholars debate passages of the Talmud, while merchants tally accounts from caravans that reach as far as Yemen or the Caucasus. Music and laughter spill from wedding celebrations, where oud and violin accompany songs in Hebrew and Judeo-Arabic. Non-Jewish neighbors often pause to listen, welcomed with cups of spiced wine or pomegranate juice. Christian houses and bell towers, church bells, mingle gently with the call to prayer. Christian artisans, especially skilled physicians and translators, enjoy respect in the caliph's city. At night, their courtyards glow with lanterns hung from grapevines, and guests sip chilled drinks while children chase fireflies. Syriac hymns drift through open windows, haunting and serene. Icons gleam in candlelight, their gold leaf flickering like captured stars. Muslim and Christian neighbors visit one another freely, exchanging stories of saints and prophets over sweet pastries of honey and nuts. Sufi corners of the night throughout the city, Sufi lodges offer quiet sanctuaries. After the clamor of the markets, travelers find circles of chanting dervishes swaying beneath lanterns. Their rhythmic remembrance of God seems to slow time itself. Outsiders are often invited to share dates and water, a gesture of hospitality that transcends language. These gatherings draw people from every community. A Persian poet, an African sailor, a Turkic guard, and a Christian physician might all sit shoulder to shoulder, listening to the same flute's lament. In these moments, Baghdad feels like a single soul in many bodies. Music of many tongues. The night markets echo with music from across the known world. Lutes from Andalusia, drums from Nubia, reed flutes from Anatolia, and Indian tabla all find a place here. Improvised collaborations spark spontaneously. A Berber drummer joins a Greek lyre player. An Arab singer matches ragas brought by Indian merchants. Crowds gather quickly, lanterns held high, coins tossed into open cases. Children mimic the dancers' steps while elders nod in appreciation. The city's soundtrack is a living atlas. Food as the common language, if music is the soul of the night markets, food is their beating heart. From every quarter come aromas that mix in the cool evening air. North African couscous steamed with raisins and almonds. Turkic kebabs rubbed with smoky paprika. Mesopotamian stews rich with tamarind and dates. Indian sweets of jaggery and coconut. Hungry visitors wander from stall to stall, sampling without concern for borders. At communal tables, strangers share bowls and stories, discovering that flavor knows no creed. Lanterns as bridges everywhere, the soft light of lanterns binds these diverse quarters together. Craftsmen fashion them from brass, glass, and colored parchment. A green glow might mark a Sufi lodge. Red signals a wedding feast. Simple clay lamps light the doors of humble homes. Seen from a rooftop, the city becomes a map of living stars, clusters of blue in the Greek district. Amber lines along the Jewish quarter, bright white arcs tracing the great market. The Tigris reflects them all, blending every hue into rippling silver. Safety in diversity, despite differences, Baghdad at night feels secure. City guards patrol with steady lamps, but neighbors also look after one another. Merchants from faraway lands often remark that they can walk from the Indian warehouses to the Christian quarter without fear, guided only by the glow of lanterns and the scent of bread. This sense of safety is not mere chance. It is the product of careful governance and a shared belief that the city itself, Madinat al-Salam, the city of peace, must remain a haven for all who enter. A lesson in coexistence. As midnight approaches, conversations grow softer. A Persian poet recites a verse in praise of unity. A Jewish scholar nods. An Arab merchant murmurs agreement. The night markets of Baghdad are not just a place to buy spices or listen to music. They are a living testament to what can happen when cultures meet with curiosity rather than fear. Walking home beneath the final lanterns, a visitor senses that the city's true wealth lies not only in gold or pepper, but in the ease with which difference becomes harmony. Artisans of the night, calligraphy, weaving, and the glow of craft. When the great bazaar finally hushes, a different kind of music begins. It is the sound of creation itself, the slow rasp of a chisel, the whisper of a quill across parchment, the faint ping of cooling metal. Baghdad's artisans often work when the city rests. Cooler night air keeps delicate materials stable, and lantern light offers a steady, intimate focus. For visitors who wander these back lanes after dusk, the experience is like stepping inside a living gallery. Calligraphers by lantern light few sights embody Baghdad's spirit more than a calligrapher bent over parchment in the glow of an oil lamp. Arabic script, with its flowing curves and balanced geometry, is not merely writing, but visual poetry. Inside a modest workshop near the House of Wisdom, a master dips his reed pen, kalam, into ink made from soot and gum Arabic. He draws each letter as though reciting a prayer. Apprentices mix pigments, deep lapis for headings, burnished gold for divine names. Travelers linger at the doorway, hypnotized by the rhythm. Lift, sweep, pause. The calligrapher barely notices. For him, night is the perfect companion, a silence that lets every stroke become meditation. Some of these pieces will become Quranic manuscripts bound in tooled leather, others letters to distant rulers, or verses of poetry to hang in a merchant's home. Papermakers and the scent of pulp a few streets away. Papermakers keep their vats warm well past midnight. Baghdad was famed for its high-quality paper, introduced from China but perfected here. Lanterns reflect on the surface of milky pulp as sheets are lifted with bamboo screens and set to dry in airy lofts. The faint smell of linen and starch fills the room. Workers speak in low voices, careful not to stir dust. Each sheet that leaves their hands may one day carry a philosopher's treatise or a love letter sealed with rose oil. Observing them, one senses that these quiet laborers feed the entire intellectual life of the Abbasid world. Weavers of color and story farther south, the weaver's quarter hums with soft clacks of wooden looms. Silk from China, wool from the highlands of Armenia, cotton from Egypt, threads from across the world converge here. Under lantern light, colors seem deeper, indigo like a midnight sky, madder red like a glowing ember, gold thread catching every flicker. Teams of women sing gentle working songs, their voices blending with the rhythmic thunk of shuttles. Patterns emerge slowly, arabesques of vines, geometric stars, tales of legendary lovers woven into carpets that may one day lie in a caliphal palace or a merchant's distant villa. Visitors stand mesmerized, watching entire landscapes grow from a handful of threads. Glassmakers and the dance of fire, while the weavers spin silence, the glassmakers court flame. Their furnaces roar, but thick adobe walls muffle the sound to a steady heartbeat. Even at midnight, the heat inside is intense. Molten glass glows orange, then cools to shimmering blues and greens. Masters shape vials for perfume, goblets for the caliph's banquets, and intricate mosque lamps that will scatter light across prayer halls. They move with quick, sure gestures, each breath controlling the bubble at the end of a pipe. Lanterns hung above double the radiance, so that the workshop seems lit from within by captured stars. Metalworkers and the song of the anvil in another alley. Blacksmiths and bronze casters extend the day with steady hammer strokes. Sparks rise like fireflies, reflecting on brass trays and silver-inlaid daggers. The clang is not harsh but measured, almost musical. Some shape utilitarian wares, hinges, locks, cauldrons. Others chase intricate arabesques into copper basins destined for the tables of nobles. Apprentices polish finished pieces with fine sand until they gleam like moonlight. The mixture of smoke, warm metal, and the faint perfume of neighboring spice stalls gives the air a complexity both earthy and ethereal. Jewelers and the midnight gem jewelers prefer the calm of night to test the subtle gleam of precious stones. In tiny shops lit by single lamps, they hold emeralds and sapphires to the flame to gauge clarity. Gold wire is drawn thin as hair, then woven into filigree that might grace a queen's headdress. Sometimes wealthy patrons arrive quietly after dark to commission special pieces, avoiding daytime crowds. Negotiations are soft but intense. The weight of gold measured on brass scales, the price murmured like a secret. The night seems to conspire in their discretion. Perfume blenders and alchemical dreams. Perhaps the most seductive craft of all is perfume. Baghdad's perfumers are alchemists of scent, blending musk from Tibet, sandalwood from India, roses from Shiraz. Their shops glow with small glass flasks, each a prism of colored oils. They work patiently, drop by drop, testing mixtures on strips of parchment. A perfect scent may take weeks to balance. Visitors are offered tiny vials to inhale. One breath carries memories of far mountains, another the sweetness of a garden after rain. Lanterns burn low here. It is the nose, not the eye, that leads. Apprentices, and the chain of knowledge everywhere, apprentices learn by doing. A boy grinds lapis lazuli beside a master calligrapher. A girl carefully adjusts a loom while her mother guides her hands. Knowledge is transmitted not by written manuals alone, but by touch, sound, and long hours of shared labor. Many of these youths will travel the empire, carrying Baghdad's techniques to Cairo, Cordoba, or Samarkand. Their training tonight ensures that the city's artistry will echo for generations. Markets of materials. Supplying these crafts requires its own nighttime economy. Caravans arrive late with bales of silk, crates of cinnabar for pigments, sacks of fine sand for glass. Dealers set up impromptu stalls lit by torches, bargaining with artisans who inspect every fiber and stone. The Tigris aids them. Barges slip in with loads of cedar charcoal or Nubian gold dust, unloading quickly before the next tide. Even when most citizens sleep, the arteries of trade keep the workshops alive. Art and the sacred for many artisans, work is devotion. A calligrapher shaping a Quranic verse, a weaver creating a prayer rug, a metalworker forging a lamp for a mosque, all see their craft as service to God. Lantern light deepens that sense of sanctity. Shadows lengthen, details glow, and every movement feels purposeful. A walk through silent brilliance, to stroll these quarters near midnight, is to feel the heartbeat of creation. The streets are quieter than the raucous markets, but the energy is palpable. Sparks flicker behind doorways. Faint songs drift from upper windows. You breathe air that smells of cedar smoke, rose oil, molten sand, and fresh ink. Visitors often leave with a small purchase, a paper sheet, a vial of perfume, a copper trinket. But the true treasure is the memory of artistry witnessed in real time. Dawn's first light on finished work. As the horizon pales, final touches are made. Calligraphers set wet pages to dry, weavers tie off their last knots, glassmakers let furnaces cool. When the muezzin calls the dawn prayer, artisans step into the early breeze. Faces smudged with ink or soot, but eyes bright. Their creations will soon fill Baghdad's homes and palaces. But for now, they belong only to the night, and to those fortunate enough to have walked among them. Tars, scholars, and the midnight mind. When merchants shutter their stalls and the hum of commerce fades, another Baghdad awakens, a city of scholars. In courtyards, in observatories, and in the great libraries, lanterns burn past midnight. Here knowledge is the true spice, rare, sought after, and traded across continents. The House of Wisdom. After dusk, the Beit al-Hikmah, or House of Wisdom, is a palace for the intellect. By day it bustles with translators and mathematicians. At night it becomes a sanctuary of quiet focus. Tall lamps throw warm halos over marble floors where scholars sit in small groups, scrolls unrolled across low tables. Greek, Sanskrit, Persian, and Syriac texts are spread beside Arabic commentaries. You might see a philosopher comparing Aristotle's metaphysics to a treatise from India, while another tests algebraic proofs with a reed pen. The stillness is broken only by the scratch of ink and the occasional murmur of discovery. Lantern light is more than illumination here, it is symbol. Students speak of carrying a lamp when they mean carrying knowledge. To walk these halls after dark is to feel ideas flicker like 1,000 tiny flames. Translators at work. Many of Baghdad's greatest minds are translators, bridging civilizations. They labor through the night to render Greek and Persian works into Arabic so that physicians, astronomers, and engineers throughout the empire can learn. Hunayn ibn Ishaq's disciples compare Greek medical texts line by line with Syriac versions, debating the most precise Arabic words for optic nerve or ventricle. Heated discussions rise and fall, but always in the gentle rhythm of scholars who respect the text and each other. Astronomers beneath the infinite. Dome beyond the round city's walls stands an observatory, its roof an open invitation to the sky. Baghdad's astronomers prefer the cool clarity of night for their calculations. Bronze astrolabes gleam in lantern light as they chart the motion of planets and stars. Look upward with them, and you see what they see. The slow sweep of the Milky Way, Jupiter's wandering brilliance, the crescent moon mirrored in the Tigris below. Scholars debate orbital periods, measure the year with astonishing accuracy, and refined tables that will guide travelers and sailors for centuries. Some nights, a Sufi mystic joins the astronomers. He offers no equations, only quiet reflections on the harmony of the cosmos. The scientists welcome him. For them, faith and reason share the same sky. Hospitals of midnight care Baghdad's Bimaristans, public hospitals, are rarely silent. Lanterns, light tiled halls where physicians trained in Greek and Indian medicine walk softly between patients. The night air carries the scents of myrrh, vinegar, and freshly boiled herbs. Here, knowledge saves lives. Doctors read patient charts written earlier that day, consult texts of Galen and newly translated Indian remedies, and instruct apprentices on surgical instruments cooled in basins of water. The city's generosity shines. Treatment is free, funded by charitable endowments, and poor and rich lie side by side. Outside, anxious relatives wait in courtyards cooled by fountains, whispering prayers while watching stars glitter overhead. Mathematicians and mechanical dreams elsewhere. Mathematicians bend over geometry problems by lamplight, their diagrams of perfect circles glowing against dark wood. Some experiment with algebra, balancing equations like merchants balance accounts. Inventors tinker late into the night with water clocks, automata, and ingenious irrigation devices. The brothers known as Banu Musa design fountains that spout in rhythm with hidden valves. To a passerby, their workshop seems almost magical. Sudden jets of water leap in time to a quiet pulse only they understand. Philosophers in courtyard debates, in shaded courtyards cooled by night breezes. Philosophers gather in small circles. They speak softly of ethics, metaphysics, and the nature of the soul. Students from many faiths, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, sit together, exchanging ideas with courteous intensity. Lanterns reflect on their faces as they weigh Aristotle against the Quran, Plato against Persian mystics. The discussion flows as steadily as the Tigris, uniting minds that differ on doctrine but share a love of wisdom. Libraries that never sleep, private libraries, remain open deep into the night. Wealthy patrons pride themselves on collections of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of manuscripts. Scholars may borrow scrolls at any hour. The quiet rustle of pages and the soft clink of ceramic lamps form a lullaby for the intellect. Some households invite travelers to read in these rooms, offering sherbet and figs. A weary merchant can spend a night among books and awaken richer in knowledge than in coin. Music of the spheres, astronomy, and music mingle in Baghdad's night. Mathematicians study the ratios of harmonious notes, believing cosmic order reveals itself in sound. Oud players volunteer to demonstrate, their strings vibrating with mathematical precision. Listeners feel both art and science merging as one, knowledge as hospitality. Perhaps most striking is the openness of it all. Foreign visitors, Persian, Indian, Frankish, are welcome to lectures and debates. Questions are encouraged even from apprentices. The city's scholars believe that wisdom grows by sharing, not hoarding. A traveler might arrive seeking spices and leave carrying new methods of navigation or medicine. In Baghdad, the market of ideas is as lively as the spice bazaar. Dawn's first equation as the eastern sky brightens, scholars set aside their pens. Astrolabes are covered, manuscripts rolled. The first call to prayer echoes over the rooftops, mingling with the soft clatter of merchants reopening their stalls. But the night's work lingers. Tables of star positions, new translations of Greek medicine, elegant proofs of algebra. These will ripple outward through the Islamic world and beyond, shaping centuries of science. The lantern as symbol, when a last lamp is finally extinguished, it leaves a faint warmth on the scholar's palm. In Baghdad, that glow is more than light. It is the enduring fire of inquiry. Just as spices travel the Silk Road, knowledge travels from these midnight halls to every corner of the known world. Dawn over the city of peace. The lanterns that shimmered all night now burn low, their flames tiny suns against the paling sky. The city of peace, Madinat al-Salam, exhales. What began as a gentle hum at sunset, traders haggling, oud strings singing, river water whispering, has become a quiet heartbeat. A traveler who stayed awake until this hour feels the city's pulse slowing, as if Baghdad itself is preparing for the first prayer of the day. Streets before sunrise, before the sun breaks the horizon. The wide avenues are washed in a pearl gray light. Sweepers move methodically, pushing aside the remnants of the night markets. Spice dust sparkling like copper, pomegranate rinds still fragrant, wax drippings from 100 candles. The air holds a cool clarity, scented with cardamom, ashes from brazier fires, and the faint sweetness of rose water spilled hours earlier. Cats slip between wooden stalls, pausing where a few vendors have already rekindled their fires. A baker sets the first rounds of bread into the oven, the smell of warm wheat rising to greet the day. Merchants of the morning, while night merchants pack their wares, another cadre appears. Farmers arrive from the surrounding countryside with carts of dew-damp vegetables. Fishermen from the Tigris display silver carp that still glisten from the net. Caravan leaders, dusty from desert travel, guide camels through the gates just as the muezzin's voice calls the dawn prayer. Some of these travelers have been on the road for weeks. They pause, looking up at the fading stars, their eyes reflecting both relief and anticipation. Baghdad is their reward, a city where trade, knowledge, and hospitality merge. A memory of night markets. For anyone who walked the markets after dark, the memories feel dreamlike. One remembers the flash of emerald in a jeweler's palm, the rhythmic clack of the weaver's shuttle, the spice merchant's grin as he lifted a jar of saffron. Even the echoes remain. Distant drums, children's laughter, the solemn chant of Sufis beside the river. Travelers know they have witnessed more than commerce. They have seen the way a city can become a living constellation, each lantern a star, each street a galaxy of human connection. Houses of rest and reflection, many visitors now retreat to caravanserais, inns that serve as both shelter and social hub. Inside, courtyards are hushed. Lanterns gutter low while guests sip the last of their tea. Some scribble notes of the night's sights. The shimmer of glass-blowers' furnaces, the music of mixed cultures, the taste of honey perfumed with rose petals. In private homes, families stir. Women draw water for ablution, children rub sleep from their eyes. A father might recount to his son the dreamlike colors of the markets, planting in the boy's mind the desire to walk there one night himself. River at first light the Tigris, black and glinting through the night, now blushes with the first streaks of gold. Boatmen who sang midnight songs now guide their skiffs with brisk strokes. Barges laden with timber and grain catch the early current heading south. From the high bridge, a traveler sees two worlds meet, the fading silver of moonlight and the rising copper of dawn. Gulls wheel overhead. A cool mist lifts from the surface, carrying with it the scents of fish and far-off jasmine gardens. The river, eternal and indifferent, bears away the night's secrets. Scholars ending their vigil in the house of wisdom, lamps are finally extinguished. Scholars stretch cramped fingers, roll up manuscripts, and give thanks for discoveries made before sunrise. A young translator yawns as he finishes a final line of Greek text, already dreaming of sleep yet aware that his night's labor will travel across the known world. Astronomers on the observatory's roof pack their astrolabes. They have traced Jupiter's path and mapped faint constellations no traveler's eye would notice. The data will inform sailors, calendar makers, and future astronomers for generations. The craftsman's quiet pride, artisans in their hidden workshops admire the fruits of night-long concentration. Sheets of crisp paper dry in gentle morning breezes. Carpets, completed knot by knot, lie rolled and ready for patrons. Glass vessels cool to a deep, tranquil blue. These objects, born in darkness, polished in flickering light, are now touched by the first sunbeams, revealing their full brilliance. Many artisans will rest through the heat of day, knowing their creations will soon circulate through palaces and markets, carrying with them the story of Baghdad's night. A harmony of faiths across the city. Different calls to worship mingle. The Muslim call to prayer, the soft toll of Christian bells, the quiet chants of Jewish morning devotion. For a few moments these sounds overlap, neither drowning the other. They rise together like a single hymn to the Creator, a reminder of the coexistence that defines the city of peace. Travelers pause to listen, realizing that this harmony is as precious as any jewel or spice. It is the unseen fabric that keeps Baghdad luminous. Lessons for the wayfarer. Those who came seeking trade depart with more than goods. From the night markets they carry not only saffron and silk, but also stories of scholars who chase stars, artisans who treat work as prayer, and neighbors who share music across boundaries of language and creed. A Persian merchant may bring home a copper lamp whose light recalls the calligrapher's steady hand. A sailor from India may tell of Jewish bakers whose bread warmed the coldest hour. A Greek physician returns with memories of a Sufi chant beneath the constellations. Each becomes a messenger of Baghdad's night. The city's enduring glow. Even as the sun climbs higher, the sense of lantern light remains. Visitors swear that the memory of Baghdad's night travels with them, the subtle glow behind closed eyes, the mingled aromas of cardamom and sandalwood, the faint echo of strings and drums. Centuries may pass, empires may shift, but the image endures. Baghdad as a great lantern itself, burning at the heart of the world. Farewell to the lanterns. As morning fully claims the sky, the last lanterns are snuffed out. Smoke curls upward, thin and blue like the final verse of a poem. The city moves into its daytime rhythm, no less vibrant but different, more exposed. For the traveler who has watched the entire cycle, from the first evening star to the full blaze of sun, there is a quiet gratitude. He has walked the alleys of spice and song, stood beside scholars and sailors, tasted the sweetness of coexistence. Baghdad has given him more than a night. It has offered a vision of what a city and humanity can be when curiosity and hospitality light the way. Epilogue, the eternal lantern history, tells us that Baghdad would later face storms, political upheavals, invasions, the erosion of empires. Yet the memory of its luminous nights survives in manuscripts, travelers' accounts, and the enduring techniques of its artisans. Wherever a finely woven carpet lies, wherever a surgeon uses knowledge first compiled here, wherever a poem glimmers with Arabic calligraphy, the lanterns of medieval Baghdad still glow. They burn in memory, in art, in the idea that culture can be a bridge between worlds. And so, as the traveler finally turns from the brightening Tigris and joins the day's bustling crowd, he carries with him that invisible light, the soft, fragrant, everlasting glow of the city of peace.